last time on Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
And we see, of course, this is where Star Trek raids the casting couch from Benson. It starts here where
And now the conclusion.
And who's going to be paying for all this holosuite time? I guess I am.
The wormhole does bring them our way, doesn't it?
Everyone wants a piece of the new frontier.
And I'm sure you've already tried to sell it to a few of them.
You don't know what any of this is about, do you? You work here. You see these people every day, how they live, and you just don't get it.
Hello and welcome to Audio Umox, where you'll get an earful about Deep Space Nine. I'm John Christopher, and I'm also joined by
Simon Van Gelder.
All right. And today we are going to continue the continuing saga that is the premiere episode called The Emissary.
Jesus, it's taken forever to get through this.
So we're going to try to finish that episode and then dive into the rest of the series. So
yes.
So without further ado, let's dive in. Where did we leave off?
Let's see. Let's just remember that Michael Piller, who is co-producer of the show with Rick Berman, did the teleplay with a story by Rick Berman and Michael Piller, directed by David Carson. And this really is about Sisko and his... It's the exposition for the whole show, but it really is about Sisko. And we, as they do with Star Trek, you'll see there's a kind of a recurring way they do this. They kind of do a tongue and groove kind of deal here. And, you know, right. who can argue with a good tongue and groove deal? I mean... I don't.
Bob Vila.
Well, maybe Bob Vila, yeah. But what they do is Picard, TNG, Next Generation, is kind of introducing the new cast, and that becomes that is evident when Picard arrives basically at the same time on the Enterprise to Deep Space Nine, which used to be the Cardassian ship Tirak Nor, or Cardassian space station Tirak Nor, orbiting Bajor, to give Commander Benjamin Sisko his orders.
Correct. Well, and also delivering...
What's he delivering? What?
O'Brien, Commander.
Oh, no, he's not
Chief
Commander.
Chief O'Brien.
He's not an officer, man.
But he's being delivered as well.
They're delivering.
So the flagship of the of Starfleet is basically a Greyhound bus in this episode.
Well, yeah, but I mean, Deep Space Nine, they are projecting it as a key strategic position because it's kind of a listening post for what's going on in Cardassia. The Cardassian Empire is worrisome. So, I mean, I get that, yeah, but basically the Enterprise is a Greyhound bus or, whatever, a cargo ship, but these kind of milk runs are not unusual. If you look at the original series, Captain Kirk was often like oddly ferrying like 2 people to some place. It's like, wow, the flagship, the Constitution class flagship is basically a shuttlecraft. Okay, all right.
Whatever works. It gets people there quickly.
That's right. So where we left off from last episode, though, was where Captain Picard and Benjamin Sisko, Commander Sisko, are having kind of a tense interlude there.
They are, yes. Considering their previous interaction was, the fine captain destroying Sisko's ship, killing many of his fellow crewmates, and
don't forget his wife
and his wife, by the way. At
Wolf 359 in the episode Best of Both Worlds. Ben Sisko, his life was changed forever not by Picard actually, but by
Locutus
of Borg. Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. So
they have this interaction. They're it's obviously quite tense. We discussed on the previous podcast that the Picard maneuver was used.
Right.
That
tugging of the tunic. There was tea served, by the way, which is usually Picard's technique to disarm people. It did not work.
Earl Grey hot.
Yeah, it was met with lukewarm enthusiasm by Ben Sisko, who really, upon repeated watching, it looked as if Ben Sisko was this close to kind of jumping out of his chair and beating the shit out of him, frankly.
Possibly. And I think he was, he had kind of settled in to the job that he had previously, and now he's being forced out of his comfort zone as well. So there's some tension there, having to change schools. I've been there.
He had to change school, drag his kid, Jake, the Sisko kid, into a new reality. Yeah. So they have their moments, and it's like Picard soon discerns that, okay, wow, Sisko lost somebody that I inadvertently killed. And, Stewart plays it so well because you could just see, he doesn't emote. It's not like he does Shatnerian emotion here, but he just, it's there. It's on his face and it's in his eyes. It's like Picard is like, you have to wonder, John, how many times, like at how many shore leaves or at how many star bases or in how many interactions has
promotion ceremonies,
right? Have people looked at him with those dead eyes, like, you freaking killed my brother or my sister or my wife or my, and it's just where you can see Patrick Stewart does such an excellent job of wearing that weariness. And it's really good. It's really good.
Yeah, and trying to balance that because he's obviously kind of tired of hearing that because I'm sure it happens over and over again while still maintaining some semblance of empathy, and the empathy will reveal itself at the end of this Emissary episode where because Sisko now is kind of leaving in a huff saying, I'm looking for another assignment, maybe I'll just leave Starfleet. I'm that frustrated at this point.
Well, do you think it's really because Picard insults the posting by continuing to refer to it as Bajor instead of Bajor?
Yeah, you would think they'd get on the same page before before that filming, and it might have been a Patrick Stewart doing a Sinatra moment. That's good enough. I'm done with this scene.
or Sinatra moment, or maybe a Picasso. I'm Picasso. Here, go to college. All right. Yeah,
I got the emotions right.
But and it's interesting points about that. Sisko saying he wants to resign. They mentioned that Sisko has been running Utopia Planitia shipyards, which You'll find out later. And, we're not about, like, breaking the timeline here. We don't give a shit. We assume if you're listening to this, you watch the show. And if anything's spoiled by you listening to this, get a life. This show was on in 1993, for God's sake. But, Utopia Planitia is where they built, the Defiant, which will come along in season 4, I think, of Deep Space Nine. Can't wait, because the Defiant really added dimension to the show, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So then we go from this wonderful, tense moment, and you think, okay, there goes Patrick Stewart, adios, that's the tie-in, goodbye Next Generation, now we're under our own world, we think, and that's when we realize that it's the whole Quark versus Odo moment begins.
Right.
And I want to say a moment about this, about the makeup. And I understand the pilot, but Odo looks like a burn victim he's like a burned apple.
It's like a face transplant.
Yeah, he does, and not a good one. I've seen better face transplants in real life. And then you look at Quark has like way more like little ridges and shit in his nose than he does later. It's like really. If you look at the profile of both of them, but Odo in particular, he just looks scary.
Yes, he almost ghostly or ghastly or a little bit of both.
Like maybe like he needs like eat a cheeseburger and maybe apply a little moisturizer or something. But basically we established that. Odo has been the chief of security on that station, even under Cardassian rule. Quark was there. He's been there for years as a purveyor of commerce, and they have a history. And so we get that, and that's good. It's pretty deftly handled. It's pretty deftly handled. So we have that, and then of course Major Kira, resident.
She's got attitude, and I think we did we talk a little bit last episode about the fact that even in the 23rd century, what is this?
This is on the 24th century, I think.
24th century. Okay, so 300-400 years from now, people are still talking smack about women. It just kind of
like what example?
So O'Brien says, "You've never worked with a female Bajoran before, have you?"
Oh, he does, doesn't he?
He does say that. So anyway, I'm hoping that that will progress a little quicker than that, but we'll see.
That reminds me, hearing a little feedback here, but that reminds me, stepping back, when O'Brien leaves the Enterprise, he kind of gives a one last look around at the Enterprise before he... two things before he beams over to DS9. One, he's like, walks by Picard's ready room, but he is reluctant to interrupt Picard drinking his tea, so he just goes... the bridge duty officer's like, he's in there, I'll tell him you're there. No, that's all right. And he goes down to the transporter, and then all of a sudden, Picard hears it probably from the duty officer. Oh yeah, Chief O'Brien's trying to slip away without saying goodbye to you. And he goes down there, and they have like a moment, but they don't even shake hands. It's pretty. It's not cold. It's. I think they went a little too far in trying to be like, let's be two, military men who
professional.
Not even a warm handshake, even. It was just like energize
or a salute. Not that they did a lot of saluting.
They don't do saluting.
Yeah. It seemed a little awkward, but his character was, he wasn't in the card games with the command folk.
No, he was once or twice. If you don't remember, he did say "time to pluck a pigeon." He was in a couple, but you're right. And to say he was a chief, he was not an officer.
He wasn't part of that inner circle.
Yeah, but he'd been there since episode 1, though. He worked his way up from like extra to once he
got out of the red shirt, he was in good shape.
He was in good. That is so true. And then he and K. Cole got together.
Oh, that's right.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to step back and just say that I thought the scene was a little airless between the two.
Okay. So I'll say it's roughly the equivalent of me signing the birthday cards at work for people I don't know. Best of luck.
That's what that was. But they had been through death and life together, and yeah.
And I have the people in the accounting department. I'm like, but it's like, I know you. I see you every day. We meet at the coffee pot.
I've smelled your farts.
Maybe.
Okay, well, they smelled yours.
But yeah, well, they all did that. but yeah, I wish you luck, but I may or may not ever see you again. So good luck to you, pal.
So basically, here's some ink, and maybe even a little cartoon. But I'm not.
It's your service.
Yeah, and you know what? If there's some of that cake left in the break room after you're gone, I will partake.
Delicious.
What kind of cake are you eating?
It is a cellular peptide cake with mint frosting. Would you like a bite?
No, thank you.
Okay, we're getting off track. Okay, so why should you apologize?
So
I started.
Now.
Yeah.
So Sisko jumps in, and despite his concerns, the things he's unhappy about with this, he embraces it wholeheartedly.
Yes.
He's obviously done some research on Ferengi culture, on Bajoran culture,
right.
And he's diving in, rolling his sleeves up to help angry Kira move random pieces of plastic around the starship.
Right.
Or DS9.
I could have done that scene. It seems tedious in retrospect, but it was necessary at the time, I guess.
I guess. I mean, this. Just looking at him, he's the type of guy that's willing to roll up his sleeves.
Oh yeah.
He doesn't look like some fat ass guy who just sit in the big cushy Cardassian's chair.
Well, he's no Chief Argyle from the Next Generation. That fat ass who they tried to make into Scotty.
Yeah,
but I digress. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. John, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So that was just my point. So he Sisko now jumps in. He gets
their hands dirty. They get their hands dirty together. But then all of a sudden it's Kaio Pagh, and Ma, who's my pa? Well, he's gone to Bajor. Ha ha ha. Am I right? It's Sisko. Like this is where we don't need to go to every detail. This is where Sisko is known. It's become known to him and to us. Basically, he is the emissary of the prophets, who are the wormhole aliens that we don't even know there's a wormhole yet. But basically, they are the Bajoran gods.
Did they have like a picture of him? Is that what happened? How did they know?
That is revealed. That is revealed in about episode or season 6.
Down the road.
Yeah, okay. It is revealed how they know, and it's. See, you don't remember. Just, by the way, a reminder, listeners, as a conceit of this show, John Christopher, my friend here, my friend of 30 years, my gosh, 30 years plus, is a more of a casual viewer, but a devoted viewer. Don't get me wrong. I'm more of the I remember all the details viewer because I've watched it a million times. So if he doesn't remember something and you're like me and you're like, you idiot, blah blah blah, just forgive him. He is.
Give me some slack. So and the other caveat is that a large portion of the time that this was airing, I was stationed in Haiti and in Germany and in other places
as a member of the United States military. So shame on all of you bastards who are like saying that John Christopher is an idiot.
I am an idiot.
Well. Yeah,
but I'm a special idiot.
Special kind of idiot. We're not here on this show to go detail by detail, and that's a little detail that I have to be careful with because I will do that. So maybe we can have, and I don't know if we'll have time on this particular episode, but maybe at the end of the podcast we can have, top 3 to 5 things that we found
especially interesting or especially peculiar or especially funny about the episode.
Well, and that includes our Deep Sex 9 segment.
Oh, yes.
Don't forget the Deep Sex 9 segment, which is the hottest or sexiest moment of the episode. And by the way, some episodes we're going to be scraping the bottom of the barrel to find a Deep Sex 9 episode. But I think you're right. So Sisko basically goes on, kind of a Dave Bowman-esque journey a la 2001: A Space Odyssey with these wormhole aliens through his life, to where he meets Jennifer, his wife, his deceased wife, where he sees all these key moments in his life. I mean, we see Jennifer first on the beach in a very fetching bikini, by the way.
Yes.
And
solid gold dancer bikini.
Tell me, she's like Marilyn McCoo. Am I right? Is she not Marilyn McCoo?
Yes, she was pretty hot.
That was the most depressing moment of 1984 or 3 when I was watching Solid Gold. And at the end of the song of the year, and it was my favorite band, The Police, With Every Breath You Take. But they did not tell me that, like all the other top songs up until number one, Marilyn McCoo was going to sing it. And I'm like, oh shit!
Damn it,
Marilyn McCoo! I don't want. You're wearing a bronzed bra and high heels. All right, sorry, I went off the road.
We digress.
So Sisko and Jennifer. Okay, can I say? I want to just throw this out at you real quick, there, John.
Okay.
And I think Avery Brooks is a very accomplished, charismatic actor. There are moments throughout the series where he's, in my opinion, somewhat Shatner-esque.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you feel that?
Yes.
Do you think?
Especially, I would say the euphoric moments.
Yes.
Tend to. I think he plays angry really well. I think that comes natural to him. I think day-to-day stuff, pretty solid performance. Mm-hmm. But when he's those euphoric, really happy moments with that giant smile, and I think he overplays it.
It seems that way, and it's like he'll do something like that I would do in my junior high plays. He'll snap his fingers and go, "Yes, that's what I mean." And I was just like, that is so obvious. But he's not a bad actor. He played Hawk, as we talked about, in Spencer for Hire, man. I mean, this guy, and there are going to be some episodes coming up where he's unassailable in his acting. Unassailable. Even if he's a little over the top, he's over the top in the right moment. But I'm glad to hear that you don't think I'm crazy, and that maybe he's a little Shatner-esque here and there.
Yes.
See, but that's the thing with Patrick Stewart. Sir Patrick Stewart typically underplays everything. Well, there's a quick apocryphal story, and I know this is where I'm getting off the rails. I know, but I'm going to do it, and we can cut it out later. Nicholas Meyer, director of Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, he brings Montalban in, who plays Khan. And the first few days of shooting, Montalban is like, everything's at top voice and just yelling and he's like, he realizes Montalban's at 11 on everything, right?
Yeah.
And Shatner, he did a technique with Shatner too, it was still different, but Montalban's like at 11, and he pulls him aside finally and says, "Ricardo, I need to talk to you." And I forget the exact wording, and I'm sorry I'm missing it here, but the gist of it was, he told Ricardo, he's like, if you're always at 11, there's nowhere else for you to go. And Montalban says to him, "Oh, so you're going to direct me, are you?" And, Meyer's like 30 years old, and he's like, well, and Montalban's like, "Please, I need this, thank you." And that's what he did. He pulled him back. And what he had to do with Shatner, who tends to be pretty,
Yes.
He would wear him out. He would make up excuses. "Oh, damn, the sound man didn't catch that. Can you do that again, Bill?" He would do it until Shatner kind of got all the hamminess out of most, not all of it, but most of it.
Right.
So that's a technique that Nicholas Meyer, director of Star Trek 2 and 6, and writer of Star Trek 4, and by the way, one of the writers on Star Trek Discovery, the new series coming up. That's something I read in his book, View from the Bridge, a great memoir of Star Trek from Nicholas Meyer. But I bring that up because when you talk about the acting, Avery Brooks, I think, had to find his footing a little bit as Sisko. And you're right, John. I don't think ebullience and happiness are particularly strong colors in his palette.
Right.
And when he plays them, it's like it's a little bit like a kid, my daughter's age, maybe opening up a Christmas or a birthday present she doesn't really want, but she doesn't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
Right.
Would that sound right to you?
Yes. Well, and I'm sure from an acting standpoint, perhaps he was focusing on the loss portion, which was really that was the focus of this episode.
Right. The focus
was coming to terms with the loss and moving on, living more in the present instead of in the past.
Right. And Promenade, you'll notice that Quark's Rom, his brother Rom, who later has a prominent role, is kind of an extra, and he has a different voice. You introduced a Synthale, which we hear in Next Generation, but they talk about that, which is really dreadful. And the quote, "Never trust ale from a God-fearing people or a Starfleet commander who has one of your relatives in jail," says Quark.
Yes.
Which says it all. And that's about the time that they offload the science officers, Dax and Dr. Bashir.
Yeah, but I want to kind of go back to the bar scene.
Go back. Yeah, because I want to make sure we catch this.
Because you have all this activity in this in this bar, and it's just this focal point of DS9. You can tell that's going to be the place, and you see Morn briefly. You're not introduced to him, but you see him. But the funny part to me is the band. So you walk in and you see this one guy, and I don't think you even noticed, but I thought I had it bad in elementary school. I had to play, the wood block with a stick. This guy, he's got a stack of these Zen massage stones, and he's playing them with a pair of dildos, green dildos, it looks like, or cucumbers. It could be cucumbers. And he's just rocking it. He is working it. And again, it goes to show you that even 400 years from now, the guys in the band, this guy looks like a Nausicaan or something. He's got two green dildos in his hand, and he's playing these stones. He's still got chicks. He's just surrounded. He's getting laid tonight because he's rocking the Zen stones. So,
do you think in this release it's cut or uncut?
They're pretty smooth. So you make the decision.
I gotta go back and look at that, man. I
post a picture of it. I mean, that could be
the shot for this episode?
The shot for that episode.
Well, oh my god. Okay, I've got to see. As soon as we get off here, I got to go back and look that up again because that's killing me. Oh my god. I guess I don't remember that. Oh my god.
Oh, yeah, it was just hilarious. And then you see the woman with the reverse cleavage. So the shirt is, her top is all the way up to her neck. It's like a turtleneck, and then from the bottom of her tits down to her waist, that's the cutout portion on the shirt.
They always find some way to.
So you see the bottom, the reverse cleavage, bottom of her tit cleavage.
It's not side boob, it's under boob.
Under boob. There you go.
There you go.
So, but it's intentional under boob. It's not like. Anyway,
and that's where you get never trust ale from. Okay. and so this is around the time when they offload the science officers, right? And 3 runabouts, which are named after famous rivers. So Bashir comes in with a lame come on. Dr. Bashir is like, dial it back like 10 notches. I mean, he's all like, I was a brilliant doctor and I could go anywhere I wanted, but I wanted to go to frontier medicine. And he's just so, he's like, he's earnest to turned up to 11. He's obnoxious as shit. And I love this, and I love this. But I'll tell you why after you tell. What did you think of Bashir initially?
I definitely thought he was just way over the top, and he came across to me as someone who was overcompensating, like he was, trying to act more masculine. He was like the effeminate heterosexual, kind of thing, trying to overcompensate. The only thing that was missing was him talking about a football game.
Well, that's a great point. But what I love about it is that he is a character that could start at 11 with that kind of shit, but as the series goes on, he redeems himself by growing up.
Yeah,
and we'll talk about that as this show goes on. And then we have Dax, who is a trill, a joined species. Bashir needs a footectomy talking to Dax, I think, for some various reasons. But we get a flashback later with a Shakeweight. You described the Shakeweights which are the orbs of the prophets.
Yes.
Is there a payoff with the Shakeweights, usually, I think?
I think for Dax there is.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you see where she was the previous... Basically, trill species, they have a symbiont. And with Dax is the, she's Jadzia, and then Dax is the symbiont that is inserted into her belly, and she gets like the benefit of all his wisdom and lives. And so I don't remember how many lives. Is it 9 or whatever? 8, 9. But Curzon, who was an old friend of Sisko's and was like an ambassador to the Klingons, dies or is getting old and dies, and they pass the symbiont from Curzon's nasty old saggy flesh into her taut lovely belly, and all of a sudden she's like, whoa, she becomes this new being. So she's there, and so at that point you got the science officers dropped off, the 3 runabouts, which are basically work capable small armed craft. They're not starships by any means, but they give Deep Space Nine a little bit of reach.
Right.
So
it's almost like an armed scout craft of some sort.
Yeah, kind of like not even a literal or littoral. Is that how you pronounce it? It's smaller than that. It'd be like a. Well, it's to me they're like PT boats. That's what I think they are. They're like that. Oh, okay. So the Enterprise leaves after O'Brien says his farewell to the bridge, but not Picard. And then in their favorite transporter, Room 3, they have this not very sentimental farewell with the greeting card signed. And all right, and then the Enterprise leaves with very little fanfare, other than the thank God the Enterprise and the guy who killed my family is leaving. Thank God. To me, the story doesn't really get started until that happens. And then all of a sudden, it's no longer a TNG tongue and groove. It's DS9, and of course that brings in the neck himself, Gul Dukat, who's homesick for his old office, which he had vacated a scant 2 weeks prior. And Sisko, they have a bit of a tete-a-tete where Sisko says to him, we'll try to keep the dog off your lawn. And there's an orb discussion where the Cardis want all the orbs for the Shakeweights, and Sisko plays real dumb, and so Dukat, not being an idiot, says, okay, I'll play your game, but we don't want to just disappear, and since we're all friends here now, I want my men to enjoy the promenade, so how about that? And Sisko's like, sure, basically keep your friends close and your enemies closer, right?
Right.
So then it's You got to sneak past the Cardis, and that means, of course,
Odo has to go rummage around in their gear.
Yeah, so they Quark's Bar is Vegas. These Cardis win a bunch of money, and the sack they shove all their Latinum into is, Odo is basically their sack.
Yeah. So can he change his mass? I can understand how you can change your shape, but how do you change your mass? So he, given he's 6 feet 6'1", give her somewhere around there.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So
and he talks like this. He doesn't talk at all like Clayton Endicott from Benson.
So he's got to weigh a couple of 100 pounds. So you've got that plus all the gold pressed Latinum in that bag. How are those Kardashians carrying it like it's just this little duffel?
Because Kardashians are stupid.
Okay.
That's part of it.
All right.
I don't know. My question really beyond that is why doesn't Quark have an electro whip like the rest of the Ferengi from the Next Generation? You remember that?
That's right. Yes. That episode,
Arsenal of Freedom or whatever it was called, where they have the electro whip. And
Deanna Troi, she broke her coccyx in that episode, filming that episode.
Is that right?
Yeah, she jumped backwards and fell, and she literally fractured.
Wait, Marina Sirtis busted her ass with an electro whip?
Literally, when she flew backwards and landed?
Because of an electro whip.
Yes, I saw an interview with her, and she made that claim.
There's nothing worse than a cracked coccyx, I'm telling you.
Yeah, that's pain.
That is, I've heard.
But we digress.
Yeah,
we're digressing yet again.
But Quark's is closed, and the winnings are taken back to the Cardi ship, and it's Odo, of course. Then you raise a point that I can't answer. Odo oozes all over the place, and can I just say, by the way, when Odo reconstitutes, his boots are rather fey. Have you noticed those boots? And he tucks his pants into them. You know what? He can wear any outfit he wants, and he's got basically these UGG boots that he tucks his pants into. I do not. It's like he's Debbie Gibson, and I have to say it bothered me.
They were quite popular in the 90s.
Fair enough. Which leads us to Dax and Sisko in the Rio Grande or the runabout.
Yep.
And then Odo reaches the transport site, and again with the bad makeup. I'm just I'm taken out of it, particularly because I know that later the makeup gets better.
Yeah.
But then Dax and Sisko, let's just keep going, hit the wormhole.
That what the kids are calling it nowadays?
Okay,
so they go in the wormhole and and they get frozen and okay. You all right there?
Sorry, I found it amusing.
All right. Good old O'Brien.
O'Brien in the wormhole. All right. Go ahead.
No. So this is where it gets interesting with the with the prophets and the people who are sending the orbs, because now they're coming as face to face as you can with the prophets, and that immediately makes Commander Sisko have to face head on something that he's been struggling with ever since he lost his wife, which is
right. Well, I mean, and they go through all this before we, the scenery. They're 70,000 light years from Bajor, or as Bajor, as Captain Picard would call it. It's a 10,000 year stable wormhole. They go back in and they've landed on some barren landscape, yet it's lush greenery through Dax's eyes. See, this is why I'm saying I want to get to this, because Sisko looks at it and it's this barren landscape, where Dax, who's got a pretty happy-go-lucky life, is like, this is the most beautiful thing ever. And the orb floats by like the Grail and Monty Python. It's like a Shakeweight, and they get zapped by the orb, and Sisko is in like this weird white zone, and Dax transports back to Ops over 70,000 light years, right?
Yeah.
But Sisko sees Jennifer back in her Marilyn McCoo bikini, and there's baseball and Locutus and Picard, and it's the first incidents of the wormhole aliens. And that's where we learn the aliens of the wormhole perceive time in a completely different way than we do.
Well, they don't perceive time at all.
Time is like, to them, what breathing is to us, I guess. I mean, there is no before, there is no after. There is only now. The concept of experience, the concept of a past doesn't resonate with them.
Well, and not to get too deep into physics,
but on your waders, man.
But I think my very limited understanding of the use of wormholes for time travel has to do with the fact that space-time is not a flat
linear.
It's not linear. It's not a flat surface. It's all over the place. And
it's so like a wavy lay.
Wormhole can travel, can connect all times, and so for a being that would exist in a wormhole, then time becomes irrelevant. It's almost it's much like the Nexus from the movies in the...
Why did you have to bring that shit up? Really?
But I mean, conceptually, it's from a physics standpoint, astrophysics standpoint, that's what it's all about.
Excuse me. Pardon me. Well, if I could save time in a bottle, the first never mind. Sorry. Well, so time is not the same. We got that. Okay. So then, meanwhile, back at the ranch, they have to move the station away from orbit of Bajor, closer to the wormhole, so they can kind of lay claim to it. And they have 6 working thrusters, and it's basically a 2-month trip by making the station lighter. So does the station have mass in space? See, you talk about mass of Odo.
Oh, it still has mass, yes.
But does it have mass where that's a big deal that it has?
Yes, because remember that where it's currently sat, it was in orbit around Bajor.
Right. Or Bajor.
Or Bajor, or Bajor.
Got it.
Whichever. Okay, so it would need to break the
surly bonds of Bajor.
The orbit, yeah, get to a velocity that it could break that orbit, and then you would have the orbit of the star that it.
Well, the Bajoran star, but it's not the Bajoran star they're trying to get to. They want to be like in proximity
break out of the gravitational
the wormhole. No, but and meanwhile, right in there, I just noticed that Odo really wants to get into Kira's orange pants right there. That is like so evident from day one, by the way. All right, but we'll get into that later, much later. So O'Brien Auto Parts figures out how to move the station without tearing it apart.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, Kira, Odo, Bashir, and Dax face off with the Bajorans, with the Cardassians about the wormhole.
Right.
But meanwhile, in the hole, we're back to linear existence discussions with the wormhole aliens. We can't go back in the past and get something we left behind. And this is the whole essence of Emissary right here, is when they realize that Sisko, who's a corporeal being, and he is tied to time. There is a past, there's a present, there's a future. Even though there's a present and a future, Sisko, unfortunately and sadly, is so tied to the day Jennifer died. And he says, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here, because they keep bringing him back to where she's dead on the Saratoga at Wolf 359. And then what do the wormhole aliens say to him? Then why do you exist here?
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to get all, too heavy here, but that's a hell of a thing. If you've loved and lost, it doesn't have to be your wife, but if you've loved a parent or a friend or an ex or and they're gone, and I can tell you from personal experience that I know I have lived in the past on that day. Maybe not like Sisko, but I've done that. And I'll say it. When I first watched this episode when it came out, I had not lived through anything such as that really. And now, in retrospect, I'm an older man, and I have done the same thing Sisko did, which is I have existed there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure,
yeah.
John,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you have too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's just such a, if you strip away the science fiction genre and just get to the essence of the story, yeah, that's it. And it's telling it's speaking a universal truth, which is, I thought it was a nice way to introduce the Sisko character, and it immediately added depth and dimension to that character. With it ties back to the Next Generation, but it also it just makes him a human being. It's not a superhero, and I think the commanders previously were some sort of these superheroes that always kind of had the answer. I think Next Generation did a little bit better job of integrating teamwork,
but they didn't need anything. They had their ship, and that's what they needed.
Right.
Whereas Sisko had this family, and his family was torn asunder. Well, and the use of baseball as a metaphor to explain linear too. See, when I first watched that too, I was not as big a baseball fan. I'd played baseball my whole life, but I was just like, oh, another tired baseball metaphor. But it worked. We have to hit the ball between these two white lines, and then we have to be prepared for whatever may happen. Basically, when that ball that is our existence, and that's how I explained it to the wormhole aliens. And I thought, that's I'm not saying that's brilliant, but I'm saying that's pretty good. Yeah. And then just to kind of. Not to go too deep here, but so Sisko in the meantime, he finds he's encountered these entities in the wormhole, speak to him through images of his wife and friends and crew members, and then the wormhole aliens question his corporeal and linear existence, and he explains it through baseball, and then they become like enraged when Ducat's ship turns up, and they forcibly close the sphincter and disable the ship, and so then Sisko has to do some fast footwork, and explain how his kind thrive on their linear existence, and that's where the baseball metaphor comes in. But the entities point out that he continues to return to the moment of Jennifer's death, and Sisko comes to the realization that he has been grieving over the loss of his wife, literally living in the past, and explains this to the wormhole aliens. And meanwhile, back at the ranch, the O'Brien Auto Parts has moved Deep Space Nine closer, but then there's three Galler class Cardassian ships attacking, and so Kira's like, I'm going to shoot my 6 torpedo wad at them and make them think that we have all this armament, which they don't. Right. And fast forward to she's on the verge of surrendering when Sisko tows Ducat's ship
out of the wormhole
with his little PT boat. He basically tows a destroyer with a torpedo with a PT boat out of the wormhole, and that's where it that's what happens, and everything's good, and it's like, okay, the Cardassians are like, we're watching you, and yada yada. Sisko's like, I've been relieved of this burden, but I have tasks in front of me. I have a son to raise. I have a ship or a station to do. Everybody's kind of got their job. Right.
Well, and there's this immediate realization now that there had been previous discussions about how barren Bajor was, that the Cardassian had stripped it of anything of value, and so that planet was basically worthless as anything other than an outpost for keeping an eye on Cardassians' activity. And now it's going to be because of this stable wormhole, this is now going to be a hub of commerce. This is now going to be the quickest way to get to the other side of the galaxy, to conduct trade and to do all manner of things. And so securing that and keeping track of it is now, his top job, as opposed to just watching some outpost.
It's job one, man. I mean, yeah. So, yeah, and so, he reveals that he's able to negotiate with the wormhole aliens to keep it open and allow ships to pass through. And when the Enterprise arrives in response to Kira's earlier call for help, Sisko tells Picard, hey, look, man, sorry to be all heavy earlier. It's all good. I'm going to stay commander. And Picard's all like, warmer to Sisko than he was to O'Brien earlier, which is really funny. There's like a handshake.
Bring it in.
Yeah, bring it in.
Come on, Ben.
But then then you can see Patrick Stewart like going, all right, skipping out, going, extra paycheck this week, and he's out, and he's gone. So he makes nice with Picard, and then all of a sudden everybody's modeling the new uniform, by the way. You notice that? Deep Space Nine brought in the new. You don't.
I didn't notice.
Right. Okay,
some differences there.
TNG had at first they had like the spandex uni with all one piece, and then like third season in, Patrick Stewart was having severe problems with his chiropractor telling him if you don't get rid of that uniform, you're going to have problems. So they cut the uniforms in half, and that's where you get the tug, the Picard maneuver when they have the high collar. And then what they did with DS9 is they had like kind of a more of a utilitarian BDU kind of deal where there was like an undershirt and like a zippered front.
Got it. Yeah. Yep.
Those
so the uni was more of a jacket, right?
There you go. Yeah. And and then it's like on to the next adventure. Just to add, DS9 was well received by critics. TV Guide describing it as, quote, the best acted, written, produced, and altogether finest, unquote, Star Trek series. It won a number of awards, including Emmys, every year of its run for makeup, cinematography, art direction, special effects, hairstyling, music, direction, and composition, and costumes. And of these, it won 2 for makeup, and 1 for special visual effects. It was also nominated for 2 Hugo Awards in the category of Best Dramatic Presentation for The Visitor and Trials and Tribulations. Andrew J. Robinson, who you'll know that name soon because he was Garak, the Cardassian turncoat, commented on DS9 not being as popular as its predecessors, and he, quote, it's not the most popular because it's the most morally ambiguous. Whenever you have characters who are gray rather than black and white, although they are more interesting, they are more difficult for people to get a handle on. I love DS9 because they were gray, because the characters were not easily definable, but that's not for everybody. And author Terry Erdman commented, DS9 was never as popular as its 2 predecessors, although it arguably was more critically acclaimed. And Ronald D. Moore, one of the show's main writers, who previously wrote for Star Trek The Next Generation and then went on to create the reimagined Battlestar Galactica, praised the show as the, quote, ultimate achievement for the Star Trek franchise. In 2002, he said, I think Deep Space Nine was the show that really took Star Trek as far as you could take it. You have the original series, which is sort of a landmark. It changes everything about the way science fiction is presented on television, at least space-based science fiction. Then you have Next Gen, which for all its legitimate achievements is still a riff on the original. I have to agree with him on that. It's still sort of like, okay, it's another starship and it's another captain. It's different, but it's still a riff on the original. And then here comes Deep Space Nine, and it just runs the table in a different way. It just says, okay, you think you know what Star Trek is? Let's put it on a space station. Let's make it darker. Let's make it a continuing story. Let's continually challenge your assumptions about what this American icon means. And I think it was the ultimate achievement of the franchise. Personally, Ronald Moore says, I think it's the best of all of them. I think it's an amazing piece of work. John Christopher, Simon Van Gelder, agree with Ronald D. Moore. I think you are right up there with that, or we wouldn't be doing Audio Umox.
There you go.
So there you go. We have pushed this to almost an hour. And
so hopefully we can maybe edit a little bit out.
We will, but the point being that as we go forward, this was the special launching. There's going to be a special episode where we're going to look at the Bible of Deep Space Nine. I'm going to send copies to you John Christopher, so we can both look at the Bible but we're not going to get to that right away, because we're going to look at the Bible and then we're going to kind of check back in and see how things changed after we do the first season. Does that sound fair to you? Because the Bible is how it started, and this is what the writers and creators of the shows thrust on the other writers and said, okay, this is how it's going to be. We're going to look at that, and then we're going to compare after we go through the first season and go, oh, wait, this is what changed from the Bible to now. So that'll be a special episode. But from now on, we're going to spend, and I mean we're going to really, and John Christopher's going to have to really push me and crack the electro whip from the Ferengi electro whip on me to keep these to 30 minutes. But one thing we're always going to do, though, is we're going to talk about a few things at the end of every episode, one of them being the Deep Sex 9 moment. What was the Deep Sex 9 moment for you with Emissary?
I tell you, it had to be that underboob. That was it for me. I loved, Dax and Kira's, that shirt she was wearing when she was, hauling stuff around.
Oh, the white shirt with the lace bodice or whatever. Whatever that was. I don't know.
Yeah.
It frankly looked like my church's steeple. I did. It really did. I'll have to dig that picture up for you.
Yeah, but
the Holy of Holies was in there.
The underboob in the bar.
That was your Deep Sex 9?
That's my Deep Sex 9 for Emissary. And you, Simon?
My Deep Sex 9, okay, is so obvious, and it won't always be this obvious, but it has to be the Marilyn McCoo bikini for Jennifer Sisko.
Oh my gosh, yes, that's true.
How could you not?
Because that happened so early.
She's lovely.
She is beautiful.
Lovely woman. All right,
and maybe it was Sisko with his barrel-chested T-shirt on over the over his swimsuit.
We're gonna have to talk about how in later episodes it's clearly he's wearing a girdle. He's clearly no. Avery Brooks is so cool, but he's clearly wearing a girdle in later seasons for sure, and we'll go into that. We'll go into that. But okay, so was there any other things about the thing that stand out for you?
So the peculiarity I wanted to mention was this well. So when they go down to Bajor to get
Bajor to
get his.
By the way, Picard did call it Bajor at the end. By the way, I'm sorry to interrupt. Right. Did Patrick Stewart not pronounce it correctly at the end?
He corrected it.
Okay,
at the end,
okay. Just to be clear, go ahead.
So this well, and it has this optical illusion, and they climb down the well to get to this this hidden area. Over how many years that the Cardassians were there, not one of them threw a coin in there and it disappeared.
Cardassians don't give up coins for anything, man.
No, anyway, that seemed like that was quite a stretch to believe that they wouldn't have figured out that was an optical illusion, that
well, maybe
there wasn't a single power outage.
But maybe the prophets, the wormhole aliens, just did not allow it.
Oh, so
it's a bit of a Deus ex machina, I know. Okay. But all right, is there any other weirdness in there that you wanted to mention about this?
Oh, that was one. You have any?
But back to Bashir, who we gave short shrift today. There's the really kind of stolen from many a MASH episode where towards the end, the denouement, when the Cardassian ships are attacking and somebody has a neck wound that's like shooting blood out, and Odo's with him, and he's like, "Put your hand here," and it's really just earnest and obvious and acty. Acty, by the way, is a phrase I will use when there's an actor who's clearly trying to make not the best writing into something more than it is. And Alexander Siddig, by the way, is a good actor, but this material he had to deal with, he really did the best he could. But and by the way, he is I don't know if you know this, he is the nephew of the man who killed Captain Kirk. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
Malcolm McDowell is his uncle.
Oh, wow.
Yes, true story. But Alexander Siddig was really trying to make something of that line and put your, and Odo's like, I think someone else could help you. And no, put your hand here. And my thought was, well, Odo, why don't you make your hand sploosh out into like a pressure bandage instead of just holding some fingers on. But anyway. All right, so we need to wrap this up. So, how many lobes? That we end every episode with how many lobes out of 5 do we give?
Out of 5.
Which is kind of funny because actually most Ferengi have 2 lobes, so should be out of 6, I guess, or should it be out of 5? John, your thoughts?
I think you're overthinking it. I think 5 is nice. It's 5 is. Or you could do it, out of 9, since it is Deep Space Nine. Would that make more sense?
Look at it. See, this is why John Christopher is the host of this show, and I am but his mere servant. All right, so
you are my lexicon.
Yes. So out of 9 lobes, how many lobes do you give him? Now, this includes writing, directing, acting, special effects, cost. It's the whole thing. Like, you're going to say, like, Siskel and Ebert, thumbs up or whatever. How many lobes from 1 to 9? 1 being not good at all, 9 being Star Trek II level of quality. What do you give Emissary?
I would rank it high enough that it drew me into the series. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed the characters and the story. So I can't give it 9, but I can give it 7. I'll give it 7 lobes.
I am going to be right there with you and give Emissary 7 lobes out of 9. Fine, auspicious start. I think, I frankly, what knocks it from 5 to 7 for me is one line, and it's simply this: I don't want to be here. And then the aliens say, then why do you exist here? That, to me, bumps it all the way up to 7 out of 9. Not 6 of 9, by the way, but 7 of 9. Wait, are we saying 7 of 9?
That's another episode. That's another series, actually.
All right.
But,
I think we gotta wrap this up. But you know what? Okay. If you want to cuss and discuss further, at this point, easy way to get a hold of us to give us your opinion of what we said is just go to the Umox Podcast Twitter account. And that's real simple. It's twitter.com/Umox. That's OOMOXPODCAST. Umox Podcast. And tweet at us. Follow us first. And if you want a direct message, a private message, you're going to have to follow us, or we're not going to do that. Frankly, if you don't follow us, we're not going to respond to you anyway. So, sorry, I'm just laying down the law here. That's a Cardassian way of doing this, but if you don't follow us, we're not going to respond. So we'd like to ask you to subscribe to us on iTunes if you're enjoying this so far. Please give us a starred review. Even if you just leave us some stars, that's great. But frankly, just write a sentence or two about why you enjoy the podcast is so huge. Say that John Christopher's take on this is so spot on. Say that Simon Van Gelder is irritating as shit. I don't care. But say something. Give us a starred review.
He is a veritable font of trivial knowledge.
A fart of trivial knowledge.
That too.
That he expels.
And if you enjoy it and you have friends that you know will enjoy it, please invite them as well. We would love the more the merrier here on this trip through Deep Space Nine.
That's right. We're going to be here, unless something happens, we're here for 176 episodes, I believe, and we just finally, after 2 or 3 episodes, got through the first...
through one!
Oh, my God. But trust me, we're going to try to narrow these down to 25 to 30 minutes per, and we're going to try to be here every week, and thanks so much for listening. Okay, again, Audio Umox, where you'll get an earful of 2 fans who've been there since the beginning, 2 fans' thoughts on the seminal Star Trek series, Deep Space Nine, which aired 176 episodes between January 1993 and June 1999. And I'm Simon Van Gelder, and he's...
John Christopher.
And thank you so much for listening with your big, fat Ferengi ears. We'll see you next week, and next week's episode is a real cool one. It is called Past Prologue, and it is a story of a Bajoran terrorist with ties to Kira, who arrives on Deep Space Nine and is pursued by the Cardassians. You'll want to hear our take on this because just about my favorite character of the whole series is introduced. A man, Cardassian by the name of Garrick. A little tailor by the name of Garrick is introduced. Am I right? Am I right, John?
He's quite a character.
All right, then. Again, I'm Simon Van Gelder. He is
John Christopher.
And you have been listening to Audio
Umax.
I hope it was pleasurable.
5-Hour Tea with caffeine from green tea leaves. It's delicious, energizing, and comes in 3 amazing flavors. With 0 sugar and 4 calories, it fits your life. With its compact size and portability, it goes where you go. To the campsite, the hiking trail, the beach, without weighing you down. 5-Hour Tea. Caffeine from green tea leaves. Release your natural side. From the makers of 5-Hour Energy. For more information, visit 5hourenergy.com. Try 5-Hour Tea today. Look for 5-Hour Tea at your local Circle K store.
You do it right to find the best deals around. Lowe's is here to help with savings throughout the store. Shop Cobalt Tool Days and take advantage of great values on tools and accessories. Like $70 off a Cobalt 24-volt max variable speed brushless cordless impact driver, now $99. Thinking of updating your bath? Save during our kitchen and bath event with up to 40% off select bath essentials, including vanities, faucets, shower heads, and more. Whatever's on your to-do list, do it right for less. Start with Lowe's. Offers valid through 7/17 U.S. only.